Today, I want to walk you through an evaluation application we've built for your generative AI applications, and we're going to do this all inside of Streamlit. So I'm Rajiv. I focus on AI ML strategy. I'm going to do the first half of this talk. We're going to hand off to Andre in the second half of the talk where he's going to go through and show you how to customize the application. As a starting point, I want to first talk about why evaluation is important, why we care about it. Then I'll give you a quick demo of how the evaluation app works. And then Andre will walk through how you can customize the evaluation app for your own generative AI applications and models. So let's start by thinking about all the different things we're doing with generative AI applications. Folks are out there creating content, creating personalized content with these applications. Other folks are building chatbots. Maybe I want to replace customer service and have a customer service chatbot to help along. Others are building AI analysts that take into account large amounts of data, summarize that, provide reports to do that. These are all impressive type of applications to do. But what I often see is when we build those for demos, they look great. They work fabulous. But when we get to production, all of a sudden we realize that the data that we have in production is quite different than the data we demoed. Or that the folks, the stakeholders, our audience has changed between the demo and production. And maybe even the nature of the tasks. They've thought about additional tasks, so they've changed it a little bit hard. And so what I personally see is there's a huge gap between getting that generative AI from that demonstration into a production application. Now, experts have kind of pointed out one of the biggest areas and one of the biggest fallings here for these gaps is a failure to create robust evaluation systems. Having evaluation is a necessary part of your generative AI workflow. Now, traditionally, evaluation is one step in that life cycle where you start at your problem, you prepare some data, then you train a model to do that. Evaluation then helps us understand, is this model going to perform on data it hasn't seen before? Is it going to generalize? Will it be reliable? And we go through this process before we deploy a model. Now, there's lots of methods we have for evaluation. We can have humans look over everything, but humans are costly. It takes a long time. So people will often rely on public benchmark data sets. I'll use unit tests, or maybe I'll use a model as a judge, which is a new technique to do. But whether you're using any of these methods, it's still important to have a human in the loop. Human in the loops help catch various edge cases that those other approaches won't do. It's also important as you deploy the model, you want to keep constantly checking and looking for changes that might happen. Having a human in the loop is essential here. And finally, we all recognize that the human in the loop is the gold standard for evaluation because they can catch so much information. With that regard, what we've done is we've built an interactive web application in Streamlit for this human in the loop process. And this application supports a variety of generative AI applications and is customizable to your applications. You can have multiple users use it, provide feedback and comments on that. I'm going to next show this at work for you on how to use it. All right, let's show you the evaluation app in action. I'm running this using Streamlit and Snowflake. Once you get the app, if you want to run it locally, you can run it locally, but it's often much more useful if you can run it inside of Snowflake because then you can share the Streamlit app amongst many other users. Now, the first step is we're going to log in. So I'm going to go ahead and hit log in. And when we log in, we can select multiple users. We can create a new user. I'm going to go ahead and just use the default user now. And of course, the reason we want to have a user is because this is an app that captures feedback along the way. We want to know which particular user gave us that feedback. And I'll show you at the end how we can account and track all of that information. So now that we have the evaluation app, we're logged in. Let me show you how to use it. Now, it's pre-configured here for a number of different models and services. So I have this set up, for example, to use with the Snowflake Cortex LLMs. Cortex Search, as well as the OpenAI models. Let me start with the Cortex models here. And we're just going to ask, I'm going to go ahead and just stick with the Llama 8B, ask a question to the model. And the workflow here is your users are going to use your model, your workflow, and they're going to ask different questions. Your approach is going to give different types of answers to that. And what we want to do is collect the feedback from those answers. The idea is your users will go through this, evaluate the responses that come back from the model. And now what you want to do is you want to capture the feedback. You want to know what they thought about that. So if we click on the feedback button here, we can see we've set up already some categories for collecting the feedback. Of course, this is customizable. So if you want to change this, you can. But then we can go ahead and enter in our comments. And that will be then captured along with all this information here about the model, the prompt that's being used as well. So that was the basic workflow through this. Now I want to show you, I took the time to modify the base evaluation app that you would get, but I wanted it to work with Cortex Search. So I'm going to go ahead here, select Cortex Search, and then select the model that I'm using. The service that I'm using here is my 10K. Now, Cortex Search is a generative AI managed service that Snowflake offers that helps people use a retrieval augmented generation, a RAG approach, across lots of documents that they've provided. Here, I've taken lots of 10K forms, something like 7,000 of them, and I can now use Cortex Search to search them. But my user might could care less about that. They just want to know, are they getting good answers for that? So let's go ahead and ask a question, right? Like how many vehicle? So now when I ask a question, I'm not using the Cortex LLMs to answer this. Instead, I'm using this Cortex search service to be able to get the answer. And so when I look at the results here, I'm able to see the quality of the results here, see that it came back from one of those 10K forms that we got. And again, at this point, I can go through the feedback loop, capture feedback as well on this. So hopefully this gets you thinking like how you can start using it to capture evaluation data around your pieces as well. I still want to show you two things. First is I want to show you some of the functionality, extra functionality we've built into this app for administrators. And then two, I want to show you where all this data is being captured so that way you know how to reuse it. So if I go to the account tab over here, this app is automatically keeping track of all the conversational history that we're doing. In this case, it's a very short kind of conversation that I'm having, but we're capturing all that pieces in here as well. You can see pieces here where we've captured all the past conversations. We've even added tools to help do some analysis of that. So especially for folks out there working on chat applications, this can help you get some insight into all the different conversations that are happening that you're running through. Now the question is, well, okay, you've shown me the data. We can manage different types of users, keep track of that. Where are you keeping all this data? Where is this all at? Because I need to be able to get to that because I want to reuse that for different purposes. So now I'm going to navigate inside the Snowflake UI to show you where we got it. Later, Andre will show you the setup file for how you've configured and stored these places. In my particular case, I'm storing all of this data inside my database here. I created the schema called LLM eval. And here you'll find the tables related to this particular application. We have two tables. We have users, which keeps track of all the users that we have, that we've set up. In this case, I've only set up two. And then we have the one we really care about, the AI feedback. This is capturing all the feedback that we have. And we can take a look here to see kind of what it looks like where I've got different users. You can see the topic that's automatically generated, what model we've used, what the score was. as well as the conversation that's happened as well. So all that information is available for you. There is an option to be able to flag messages as well. So people can flag, think about something that maybe inappropriate content you want flagged. You can use that flag to help quickly sort through all that information that's there. So this is a kind of a quick tour of the application itself. So now I want to remind you why we want to use the evaluation application. Having evaluations, putting that human in the loop gives you a lot more capabilities. For example, now you can start to see how your users are actually using the app. Often they do things in unexpected ways. And so actually looking at the data, looking at how they're using it gives you a lot of insights for what they're doing. Getting that feedback. We did the simple numerical one here. You could modify this for different kinds of feedback. If you want thumbs up, thumbs down, the app will support whatever types of feedback you want to be able to use. Now, as you collect this data, there's a lot of good things you can do with it. A common use case that I've seen is people want to create their own fine-tuning data sets based on this. Because once you understand what the users are doing and you can give the correct answers for what should be doing, you can use that to improve that base model as well for your generative AI applications. Finally, having a record of how your application is being used, all the different things people does, helps to earn trust among your users so you know that you've anticipated their needs. But also, as you start thinking about deploying this, going to your generative AI committee to be able to get approval for your project, you can say, hey, I've tested this. We've had humans watch this. This is how people are using it. These are the expectations around this. So we can now set up proper guardrails for being able to effectively use this application. So hopefully I've got you motivated, interested, showing you how you can use this evaluation application. I'm going to now pass this over to Andre, who's going to spend some time showing you how you could customize the evaluation application for your own needs by giving you a tour of all the project files, as well as kind of a quick start on configuring for a new type of model.
Thanks, Rajib. I'm gonna continue with the presentation. I'm Andre, I'm an app developer, and I'm gonna cover the section on how to customize the evaluation app. So let's get started. First, you might be wondering, where can I get this app? Fortunately, it is publicly available for anyone on GitHub. Anyone interested can clone the repository and start using it. In the same repository, you'll find numerous other examples, but for now, we'll be focusing specifically on the LLM evaluation. So before we start customizing, we are gonna go to do a quick walkthrough of the project. I'm just gonna quickly go to GitHub so we can start with this. And here we are on GitHub. And as you can see, we have some other examples where we are going to be focusing specifically on the LLM evaluation. Here on this folder, here we have some others, some other folders and files. We are not going to be covering all of them. We're going to omit some of them because they are configuration files or just irrelevant for this demonstration. So first, we have the .streamlit file, which contains configuration files used when the app is run locally. If you plan to deploy the app in a system environment, this file will be ignored. Then we have the app pages. In the app pages folder, you'll find all the available pages for the application, such as account, conversation analysis, and user management. However, the main page is not available here. It is located in the Streamlit app file. And this file serves as the entry point of all the application on the system environment. So then we have the data folder where you're going to find the creation script. This file is very important because it allows us to create the required objects in the database so the app works as expected. First, at the beginning of the file, we have the creation of these objects, such as databases, schemas, and tables. Then, as you may know, on Snowflake, we are very worried about security. And since this app integrates with the OpenAI API, by default, Snowflake blocks all the HTTP requests to external endpoints. To enable this feature, you'll need to create an external access integration. These integrations allows Snowflake to communicate with trusted URLs, enable requests to those endpoints. This implementation can be used later as a base to enable new AI providers. Then we have this function which leverages the external access integration in the API of OpenAI. So given a model and a prompt, you can query data from ChatGPT and it will give you a response. Then we have some sample data that later will be used by a Snowflake Cortex search. Then we have the UI folder, which contains two files. The first is components, which contains generic UI components that are reused across different pages across the app. Then we have the model file, which, as its name suggests, contains all the models and dialogues used by the app. And that will be it for the walkthrough. I just want to quickly mention that the README file contains a lot of useful information, such as some technical notes, how to do the setup of the app, and some really useful information. And as you can see, we have a lot of information here. So feel free to take a look before customizing this app. So I'm just going to quickly go back to the slide so we can continue with the presentation. How can someone leverage this code and apply their own modification? In this extensibility section, we're going to cover that. First, I would like to introduce you to the Cortex integration. Cortex integrates seamlessly with Snowflake, as both are Snowflake products, which you can see on the right. We have a fully functional demo on how to use Cortex. Given a model and a prompt, Cortex is gonna give me a response, and is as simple as this. Then we have the OpenAI integration, which you can use as reference for integrate any model or provider. The steps are largely similar across platforms and providers. First, you need to create an external access integration. Once that's in place, you can use the API of your selected AI provider to query prompts. With that being said, this basically recaps a bit in this slide. Remember to create the external access integration and to create the HTTP request to the desired endpoint, and basically give the response in a string format. At last, we have the getComplete response function, where it's as easy as adding a new conditional statement with your new model. And this concludes with the extensibility and customizing the evaluation app. Thanks.
Thanks, Andre, for walking through how we can customize this evaluation app. So to recap kind of what we've done so far is we've shown you kind of the importance of having evaluation, of having a human in the loop as you're thinking through using your generative AI applications. To help you along this way, we've built this Streamlit application as a starting point for you to do. It's fairly simple to get started. We've shared with you the GitHub for how you can go and grab it. The last piece is we want to make sure that you can customize it, that you can add your own applications, your own agentic workflows, and be able to test and get that as well. So this is where Andre has walked through the example of, hey, I have a new model, I have a new service. How can I modify the little bit of code that we have there to add my model, to add my prompts, to add my service, so then we can collect that human feedback and have that available for us. As you go to start to use this, a reminder, check out the README. We've spent a lot of time trying to document all the pieces of this application. As you start using it, if you have comments, if you notice any issues, please give us feedback. A big part of this application is to help spur a lot of innovation, a lot more use of human-in-the-loop evaluation. So please kind of share your improvements as we go forward with this. This is why we've made this a public project and want to get all of you on board for it. Now, the last part is this LLM evaluation app is just one of many applications available. What I want to highlight is if you look at where this application sits, it sits alongside many other Streamlit applications. So yes, I want you all to think about LLM evaluation, but if you're looking for starter Streamlit projects, this is a great place where you can contribute your own applications as well, but it's a starting point to view a variety of other applications that you can use. So I'm hoping all of these together will kind of help your journey to be able to build better generative AI applications. Thank you all.